Good evening and welcome, or good morning, or good tea time, or good breakfast, or whatever it is, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to Jamie TV, streaming 100% live on YouTube via Streamlabs and powered by the iRig Stream and the iRig Pro Duo. Let's have a look who we have already in the chat. We have just one person. We have young Paul. Paul is watching on TV. It looks so much better than on. It looks so much better on a 42-inch screen. I read that wrong then. I thought he said looks so much better than a 42-inch screen. I thought, well, okay, how big's this telly? Okay, so thank you very much for joining. Hi, Samuel. Hi, Nutrix. Wow, I am honoured. The most handsome man on YouTube has joined the chat. Good evening, Nutrix. Thank you for being here. We are here today to discuss beef, or rather for me to demonstrate beef to you. Now, what I'd like you to pop in the chat is if you have actually signed up for the beta, because this has been a public beta and a number of people have had it for a while, and I've been discussing with quite a few people who have been using it, and everyone seems to really like it. I do. I think it's wonderful. That's kind of why I chose it, I guess. So have you signed up for it, and what do you think to it? Pop that in the chat. I'll start rambling on about it, and I'll try and remember to look at the chat. I usually get really behind with the chat. I'm a bit poor at that. So I'm just looking at my computer here, and I've got the chat, but the stream's not on there. So I'm not sure what's going on there. Does everything sound okay? Or, well, I say everything. I've not played anything yet, but can you hear me speaking okay? Let me know in the chat, please. Let me see if I can get this thing working. My computer's like a bit ancient, so it could potentially have something to do with it. You can hear me okay. All right, okay. Well, something weird's going on with my computer, but I'm not going to worry about it. If you can hear me speaking okay, then it must be working. So that's cool and groovy. Right, so to beef. Beef must have by far the coolest artwork and possibly name ever done for an iOS app. Paul says he's had beef since it was available on test flight, and it's absolutely brilliant. Loves it. Yes, agreed. So let's have a look at it. I have a bass on because I've found this app particularly good for bass sounds, which is nice because one thing that is a bit sadly neglected on iOS is stuff that works with bass. There's actually very little geared at bass players. Now this I don't think is particularly aimed specially at bass players, but it works for bass. So just get my hair out of the way. Let's have a look at this. I'm just a tiny tad bit rattled and trying to get my head back in the game. I just had someone online, and I should be used to it by now, right? It does kind of take a lot to rattle me, but someone just had a go at me online. Someone who disagrees with me about a certain thing, and instead of disagreeing me in a sort of, let's discuss this thing nicely kind of a way, responded in a kind of attacking and mocking kind of way. So I should do my best to get over it. Right, so I'm going to need to unmute my bass and pick up a pick, because what I've done is I've I've made some presets for Beef, which are going to be in the actual app when it goes on sale. I don't know if they'll include all of them, but they asked me for 10, so I've made 10, and I'm going to rattle through those 10 presets that I've made for the app. And the first one in the list is called Pick Up Your Bass, because I designed this one for playing bass with a pick, right? Evening Peanut Cram, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for being here. So let's unmute this bass. Right, okay, now let me know if you can hear the bass okay. It should be fine. So Beef, I made this preset for playing your bass with a pick, and the thing is as a bass player, one of the things that I've sort of had to contend with over the years is the fact that I like to play with a pick, and I also like to play with fingers, right? And when you are doing a gig and you move between the two techniques, it makes a huge difference to your sound. And so I've always tried to kind of try and compensate. Oh, evening Ed. I've always tried to kind of compensate for that by having different sounds available on my pedal board. So often what I'll do is I'll have two DIs. I like to have a DI before my amp, so if I have two, I can have one that compensates for that sort of slight lack of low end that you get with a pick, and one that compensates for the fact that when you go to fingers you lose a little zing. Okay, I do actually quite like pedals, and it's an excuse to just, you know, have more things on my board. At one time I used to have a pedal board that my bandmates used to call the mothership, because it was so big. It was actually, believe it or not, it was actually the heaviest thing that we had in the van, apart from the PA bass bins. It was ridiculous, but pedals are much smaller and lighter. Anyway, enough about that. Shut up, Jamie. Talk about the app. Right, so what I've done, let's have a talk through the app. The app has 2 pages. We've got the main page here, and if I press this button here, which is called preset mode, we go to a much simpler page where I can still access the presets with the menu here, or I can toggle through them just as on the other page like this. But we also have a nice big fat mix button, which is great because this means that you could use this live. You could actually, if you want to, and I'm going to be doing this later this year, is I'm going to be doing some gigs where I am going to use my iPad as my amp and pedals essentially, and so if I chose to use this app, I could have it, I'd have all my presets already set up, and I would have it on this page, and then I would be able to just adjust the output, which we would do here, and I could adjust how much of this preset I have blended into my sound with this big knob. Right, so I can take it all the way back to my clean bass and dial in as much of it as I wish. Now what I've got with this sound, and this app is capable of some really outrageous, quite extreme sounds, some nutty stuff, which is great, but it's also really good, I've found, with bass and guitar and piano actually, for some subtler effects. It's a very, very usable thing. So when I say usable thing, what I mean is there are a lot of things I've found on iOS that make some stunning, amazing, incredible sounds. But then when I've come to actually sort of try and use them in a practical sense, I've found them less usable. But this is marvelous. So we start on this side of the app with an EQ section where we can adjust the low frequencies, so we can cut or boost, or we can cut or boost the highs here. And then we've got one of those parametric-y type of mid section things. Hello John, thanks for joining us. You didn't see the mix knob. Well, let me just read the rest of your comment. Must have been added after I first played around with it. Thanks, Jamie. Actually, I don't know, John, if that's the case or not, because at first I didn't see it either. I actually pressed the preset mode button by complete accident and ended up on another page and went, oh, what's this? That's how I discovered it. So I don't know if it was there in the first place or not. And I then asked Caelum Audio for fear of looking like a bit of a prat, if I'm honest. So anyway, but it's there, okay? So now you know, John. Right, so yes, what we do is we decide which mid frequency we want to cut or boost with this knob, and we make the adjustment with this knob, which is really, again, really nice for bass, because the magic, when you're looking for that magic sound for bass guitar, the one that's going to cut through without being too loud, which is very difficult, very difficult with bass, this is the kind of mid sweep situation that you really need to have. And then we have a knob for sub. We can cut or boost sub, which is wonderful, but for bass guitar I kind of pretty much leave it in the middle, because you don't need to add low to a low instrument. It's kind of a mistake that a lot of people make early on. Well, it's a bass, so I'll add some bass. It's a bass, it makes lots of bass. It's the other frequencies that we need to look at. Okay, so what I've got, in fact, I can mess around with this because I've got this saved as a preset. So if I just sweep round with this mid frequency here to up here, and then I cut that, you can see I can get a much darker sound. I can take out, if we're wanting to get a bit more of that, say, kind of probably better if I did this with fingers, actually. You know, that kind of just sort of less zingy sound. That sort of thing. Right? Let's add a bit of sub just to show you. I think we need to put this back into here, that. Right? So we can bring up those really low, which I would never, hardly ever really do on a bass. And then highs, we can add lots of bright if we need it. For fingerstyle, this is lovely. Anyway, right, let's go back to my preset, and then I can. Right, now, noise. This is something that I'm going to demonstrate later on in more depth, but basically what this does is it adds some noise and rate modulation. And we can adjust the frequency of the noise, so I can add in a much lower kind of, I'll turn up the amount. You never realised it was there either, Ed. We're not alone, John. We're not the only numpties, okay? So, let's just take this frequency up the other way. Alright, so we're adding a much higher frequency of noise, right? And then we can adjust the Q of the noise. leave that there because I'm going to show you more of that later on. And then we get to the saturation section. Now this is the thing that really kind of spoke to me and said, this is an app that you've got to try on your bass guitar because it's marvelous. And this is preamping, and this is what we're looking for when we're looking for that sort of that sound that we want for bass guitar. So we've got drive and tone, and I've found that for bass, this usually works best with the tone turned up pretty high. And as you can see, I've actually got it turned up all the way. The amount of drive obviously is the amount of, it sounds like, you know, it's like the amount that we're pushing the front end of an amp. And by the way, I am using a very well, it's a single coil jazz bass copy is what it is, by Vintage. So it will be a little bit on the noisy side from time to time because single coils are. Right, so this is on the tube setting at the moment, which is probably my favourite of the 6 available settings. It does sound to me very much like the kind of amp that I would buy. We've also got Overdrive. I need to turn that up a bit. We've got Distortion. Fuzz is particularly nice. It's got that sort of whereas the Distortion has more jagged edges to it, the fuzz is kind of, the drive is there, the distortion is there, but it's kind of, it's warm, it's smoother, it's very, very nice. Then we have a tape setting, which is probably less effective on an instrument like this, but again, I'll show you more of that later. It does sound very nice and warm. And then we have the rectifier sound, which sounds nice, but is quieter than the other sounds. So let's just put a bit more of that in the mix and take the volume up a little so you can just hear it. Okay, so that's that, right? I'm just gonna go back to my preset as it was. Right, now should I demonstrate this on bass? I suppose I can do. We've got a Bitcrusher. And actually, before I forget, before I carry on and forget, what I meant to say kind of early on about this app is these things in this app, they are all available in multiple apps, you know, in singular form or as part of a greater whole. None of these features are anything that you can't get in lots of other places. So why is Beef so special? And I think you usually hate fuzz for guitar head. never use it, but I have to say it sounds much better on bass than distortion. It does. Fuzz on bass is one of, because I often find that when you add distortion to a bass, it tends to sound a little bit too nasty. It's a bit too jaggedy. Hi Joe. Evening. Thank you for being here. It's just a bit too harsh, maybe that's the word. Whereas fuzz, I just find it works better on bass. I really do. Anyway, so I am going to demonstrate the crusher, although this is not really the ideal instrument for it. But so the bit. Oh yeah. So what I was saying, right? Yes, stupid hippie. Hi, Greg. Cliff Burton would disagree. Yes, absolutely, Greg. And Cliff Burton was an outstanding talent. People like to compare the bass players that have been in Metallica, and to be honest, of the three of them, Cliff would be my favourite. I don't think that you could really argue that Rob, who's with them currently, is probably technically the best player of the three. I think that Jason Newsted did a stunning job of being in that band and really suited the material that they were doing at the time and was much underappreciated. But Cliff was creatively unique. There was something magical about the way he played, and I really enjoy his bass playing on those early records. And yeah, he did use distortion and wah very effectively, and it sounded brilliant when he used it. But I find that when I use it, it doesn't sound brilliant at all. So I was going to say, I will get this out. So I was going to say, so what's so special about beef? Well, what's so special about it, even though the things in it you can find in lots of other places, is it just sounds fantastic. It's just the sound of it. It sounds wonderful. And at the end of the day, that's what we want. So, and this is going to become one of those magic apps. One of those apps that people throw on things to make them sound better, like they do with Woot. Not that it's anything like Woot, but right. So, Bitcrusher. Let's add some amount on here. Right, and then this is the rate of the divide. Okay. The bit depth, currently on 16-bit, let's bring that down. 8-bit. Now, whether this is a sound anyone would particularly want to use it on bass, I don't really know. It's probably not something I would use, but I have created a sound for this app that I'm going to show you in a bit. Where I am using it, it's a bit balmy. But you know what? It won't be to everyone's taste, but let's demonstrate it. Okay. Right. Okay. So you get the idea. It does bit crushing stuff, and it also has a smoothing control, so we can make it a little kind of on a bass. It puts it more in the background. All right, so I'm going to just lose that. Then we have shaping. Now, I didn't think I would want this on bass actually, but the shaping section has attack and sustain, and if we take up the attack, it really makes that bass punch. So take the sustain up. Yeah, so I have used that in some of my sounds. And then at the end we have a limiter, which will no doubt have really pleased Dean. Sorry, I'm just reading. I like Jason Newsted a lot too, says Ed. Cliff is definitely number 1, Newsted 2, Rob 3 in my opinion, but Rob is a great player nevertheless. Too bad Jason has always been treated like crap. And Greg says he's thinking of a whole different dude. It is Rob. Oh yeah, I saw that comment earlier. Yeah, I know what you mean. I hear you, Greg. I stopped following Metallica after Jason left pretty much. Right, okay, so, right, back on the subject of Metallica. I saw Metallica live with Rob because my missus, it's her favourite band. And I like them. I'm not a massive fan. I like them a lot. I don't think Rob's playing suits the old material at all. He's an amazing player. But the way he plays, for me, does not sound anything like as good as what Jason did on those records. For me, it's my opinion. For what it's worth. And the other thing I noticed about Metallica, for me, a lot of great live bands live are led by the drummer. I love drummers. Watching drummers is my favorite thing, and many great bands have really been led, as a live unit, led by the drummer. In Metallica, Hetfield is the daddy. He is. Hi, Josh. Hetfield is the daddy. He's absolutely the anchor in that band. His playing holds the band together. His personality holds the band together. He's a fantastic frontman, and I never ever appreciated how amazing he was until I saw him live. In that band, they follow him, no doubt about it. Anyway, probably enough of my two penneth about Metallica. So this app, before I move on to looking at my sounds and stuff, this interface, other things that we should see on it, we go here if we want to look through presets. That's pretty self-explanatory. We can toggle through them one by one, as I have been doing with these left and right arrows here. There's a little bin icon here. That's for if you've maybe got a preset in there you decide to get rid of, you bin it off with that. There's a save icon here for when you've just made your world-beating preset that you don't want to lose, and you press save. It makes a nice little wobbly line, as I've started to call it up here, as you play, which is nice. You've got a level here. You can take your volume up and down here, which is another thing I didn't notice immediately, I have to say. And that's really useful, because sometimes by the time you've added you've boosted a couple of frequencies and you've added some saturation, maybe some shaping, you're really kind of pushing the volume up from the original signal. So let's just compare mine here. If I take so I take it out of the equation, take beef out of the equation, we've got a massive drop in volume. Well, probably the best way to work is to take that volume back down and match the two. And here we have a mix control, so all we're doing with that is blending the preset into your sound. So if you want it in there 100%, wind it all the way around to the right. Now for bass, I wouldn't recommend that, because the more overdrive or whatever kind of saturation you choose to use, the more you wind that into your mix, the more you lose a little bit of low end. So it's great to be able to have a blend of the two things. All right, so you've heard plenty of my my pick setting here. So let's have a look at some of my other presets. 14 people watching. Oh, that's nice. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining me and making me feel a little bit better about myself. Yes, Ed's just agreeing with me about Metallica. Okay, so any questions about beef? Feel free to throw them in the chat. Okay, right. So here are my presets, 10 of which I sent to Caelum Audio for consideration for inclusion in the app. Right. So let's just pick. Okay, we'll go with Fingerbase. Right. So here's a slightly different sound that I made for playing bass with fingers. I've got some drums here, so let's have a quick jam. I think I can't remember what pattern I said. I'll just press play and I'll play along to whatever's there. I may live to regret that. Anyway, okay, so I accidentally changed key momentarily there. So yeah, I'm not sure what that drum pattern was all about, but anyway, let's have a look at some more presets. So we've got that's my finger setting, and if you look at the what I've done, actually I've taken the brightness right down on my iPad because this app is white. It was really glaring on the phone camera screen that's doing the stream, right? So it seems to really exaggerate the bright colors. So I hope that it looks okay on screen. It's not the biggest interface, and it doesn't resize when you drag this down. It doesn't fill out the screen, and that is the only thing about this app that I would change. Other than that, I think it's honestly spectacular. It would just be nice, I think, if you're considering it for live use, if you could have bigger knobs, right? Bigger knobs would be good. That's my thought. So my finger setting, you just see slight differences in the EQ here and the way the drive is set. just so that I could move between pick and fingers and compensate for the difference in sound. And then let's have a look at more of my settings. So then we've got my slap sound. Okay. What I'm going to do actually with this slap sound, I'm going to add another Caelum app. I'm going to add slap. That's just made it a little bit loud, so I'm just going to bring my... Right, okay, so there's my slap sound. Let's just kind of have a Deckers at that on the screen. Who says Deckers anymore? For this one, I actually went for the tape sound for the saturation. It just seemed a little, it just seemed nice. It's just kind of like there's a warmth to it, even though when you're slapping and popping, it does tend to be a little punchy and harsh. It's a really nice clarity to it. By the way, if you haven't checked out Slap, you should watch my video on it, is what you should do. And you should just buy it, because it's marvelous. It is a brilliant compressor, and this looks wonderful, this screen. Brilliant, doesn't it? It's worth buying just for that. And if you've not checked out Smooth is basically Slap, but smoother, believe it or not. Slap is fantastic for any instrument that you have that really kicks, and if you want to create that kind of effect that you can get with the compressor, where you can really make something kind of punch in and out of the mix. So anything with dramatic transients, I would say. And then Smooth is it works in exactly the same way. The interface, if you already bought Slap, you know the interface immediately. It's a different color though, and also looks wonderful. But it's kind of just like nicer, smoother, wonderful. But we're not here to talk about that. Just thought I'd mention it because I really like all Caelum's stuff. And then back to Beef. Sorry about the noisiness. I have something here in my studio that I don't know what it is. It's one of those kind of earthy problems, and I've had it for a while, and sometimes it goes away and I think I've fixed it. But a single coil instrument, 3 screens in front of me, you know, it's picking up some noise. So my apologies for that. So yeah, so that was my slap sound. And then I have one that I call Dirty Warm Finger, right? Let's just take the volume back up on that. There we are. Right, now I made this sound for if I wanted to play fingerstyle, but I wanted something kind of that bit dirtier. So this is on the Overdrive saturation. it's probably my favorite of the sounds I've made, I think. And it's really nice for these kind of fiddly about fingerstyle things that I tend to do far too much of. And if I just add this back on, it's really quite nice for I missed the string. I can't play it now. Right, okay. Played that better. Alright, let's just see what else I've got to show you here. And I just need to keep an eye on the time, which I may need to stand up for, because I've covered my clock up there. Right, oh, I need to be quick, because Doug's on in a bit. Right, so earlier on I showed you the Bitcrusher thing, right? And I did this, right? I made this sound. But this one's probably going to be quite noisy. But what it was, I was trying to decide where I wanted the rate divide. Oh, actually, let me just take that compressor off there. I was trying to decide whereabouts I wanted to set the rate divide. And I was going like this, and I thought, wouldn't it be great if, while I was playing, that could be moving up and down. And then I realised, hang on a minute, here, all of the parameters of the app are available to send controllers and things to. So what I did was, I opened up the Rosetta LFO thing, which although I've had Rosetta for ages and I've used all of the other Rosetta things loads, I've never actually looked at the LFO thing. It's not the kind of thing I would normally think to play with, to be honest. But I thought I'd never go with it, right? So I set up an LFO in there. And so if I press play, right, the rate... Oh, take the drums out. So the rate divide is moving. And so... Anyway, yeah, so I just thought I'd show you that because it's kind of cool, isn't it? I don't know what I'd use that sound for, but it's kind of cool. And then knock that off. And there was another... Alright, so for a fuzzy bass solo sound... Okay, so that's that sound. Right, now, I've got some other sounds to show you, and I've got not a lot of time left, so I shall quickly do this. I shall take this big guitar off, right? Hang on. You sit over there and behave. Right. I'm not a keyboard player. I arse about with keyboards, but I'm really not a keyboard player. But I love them. Now I've got here 70s keys open. I only made one sound for keys because I ran out of time. It was time for my dinner, you know, so priorities. So here we've got 70s keys. I've just got the, you know, basic piano sound on. I've got no effects or anything set up in keys of the 70s. It's just the raw sound. And then I added beef, and I used some noise. Right now, that kind of piano, noisy, old, broken, vintage piano that sounds like it was recorded millennia ago kind of sound is really popular at the moment. And some people make remarks about it like, you know, so we spend money on fabulous, amazing sounding pianos and then we destroy them with noisy apps. But you know, it's I like it. And then what did I do? So really in beef at the moment, this sound is nothing particularly, there's not that much going on. There's some limiting because it does get a bit loud when you really hit the keys, and we've got some tape drive in there, and we've got the noise. That's it. But I also added Caelum Audio's Tape Pro. I made this it's actually one of their presets that I made a couple of adjustments to myself. And then I just added a bit of Black Hole, and it's actually one of Neutrix's presets if he's still here. It is Big Wide Place, and I just turned the mix down a little on it because it was just a little too much, but just a bit more in the background. It sounded wonderful. So so that's like this. I'm just going to do that again so you can listen to that reverb again. Stunning. So thanks for making that Neutrix. That's Colin's here. An Audible video. And Teddy Leopard. You snuck in while I was probably talking bollocks, frankly. Right. What am I like for time? I've covered my clock up. I've only got 5 minutes before Doug, and I've got 3 presets to show you, so I'm going to be quick. He said, "Where's my guitar? I've lost my guitar." Oh, there we are. It's dark in here. I know it doesn't look it on the screen, but to get this kind of iPad to work like this, it's where's my lead? I didn't unplug it. Come on, dude. You have to have like virtually no light on me at all in the room, so it's so right. You can see the other apps here that I've been playing with today, but I might not have time to show you everything. Right, so my guitar presets I'm going to rattle through very quickly. I made one for a kind of 80s, an 80s rock sound. That, right? And I made one for a fuzz guitar thing. And final preset, I made this one called 8-bit Git Voc. I can't even say it. Right, so here I've used the Bitcrusher again, and it's set to 8-bit. And if I just maybe add in, I've got Eventide Spring on here for a little so I'm just reading Greg's comment. Nasty tones. Yes, I'm a guitarist, also appreciate the demos with real instruments as much as I love synths too now. Yeah, me too, Greg, me too. I do love synths, but I'm a things with strings player, you know, and that's where my forte is, although it might not really be apparent from this particular demo. There we go. Yeah, just wanted to throw that on there because I've just today started messing around with Nembrini's shimmer delay, which is quite fascinating. It's really good. It sounds awesome, but the presets are all, for me, just all a bit much, because you know, they're predominantly a guitar company, so I thought the presets would work nicely on guitar, and all they really serve to do, in my opinion, is to show that the app sounds amazing, but they're not really what I might call usable, perhaps. So if I just lose beef for a moment and have a clean sound, what I've done here is I've made very quickly a very subtle sound. And all it is a very watered down version of the lead Vox preset from the app. So anyway, we went here to talk about that, but I just wanted to switch it on because, you know, I just got it, and I do like it. So Beef is awesome. It's a really cool app. It comes out on the 30th, have I got that right? I made a note of it, but I can't see it. So I think it comes out on the 30th. And I've put details below this video of how you can find Caelum Audio's website. I can't even speak today. Caelum Audio's website, so that you can follow them, and you can follow their they've got Twitter, I think they've got Instagram, they're on Facebook, so follow them and check out updates on Beef and new apps as they continue to develop them, because they're all fantastic. And I love them. So let's just go back to that fuzzy old Git. Right, okay, so I'm going to clear off now because Doug will be on in a moment. thank you very, very much for watching. I really, really appreciate it. I'm sorry I've been a little bit rattled and a bit not quite with it during this stream. I just don't know why when people want to disagree with you about something, they can't do it in a sort of a slightly nicer fashion. There's really never no need to be unpleasant. Anyway, everyone, take care of yourselves until I see you again. Thank you for watching. Make lots of music, take care of yourselves, and don't piss your pants about. See you soon.